Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If I can get the chair close enough. We want to welcome everyone to today's meeting of the Rancho Cordova City Council. This is our first regular meeting of the year, and we wish everybody a Happy New Year. And we want to welcome the people who will, and wish them a Happy New Year, who will be watching this later on cable or on television. And we'll ask the city clerk to read the announcement schedule.
Thank you. This meeting of the Rancho Cordova City Council is being videotaped with closed captioning in its entirety and will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse. Today's meeting will be repeated Thursday, January 19th at 9 a.m. and Friday, January 20th at 6 p.m. on Channel 14. A DVD copy is available for checkout from any library branch. A copy can be ordered from the city clerk's department, and a webcast of this meeting will be available on the city's website within 48 hours of adjournment of this meeting.
Thank you. Would you call the roll?
Thank you. Councilmember McGarvey?
Here.
Councilmember Skokeland?
Here.
Vice Mayor Budge?
Here.
And for the record, Mayor Terry will be absent this evening, and we expect Councilmember Sander momentarily.
Great. Thank you, Mindy. As is customary, we're going to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and we would normally have an invocation. We don't actually have anybody to do an invocation tonight, so we're going to observe a few minutes of silence in honor of this incredible tradition that we have, our constitutional tradition of the peaceful passing of power that's going to take place on Friday with the inauguration of a new president. So if you'll all stand. I'm going to ask Captain Chris Pigman if he would lead us in the pledge.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
So if we'll stand for a few minutes. Thank you all. Please be seated. We have two presentations on our presentation calendar tonight. And for the first one, I will ask our Police Department Deputy James Crozen to join me at the podium.
What's that?
Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
It's Krausen. Very close. You did better than most.
And for the record, Councilmember Sander arrived at 5:37.
Well, welcome and congratulations, and thank you for coming tonight and bringing your wonderful family and all of your colleagues. And I suggest we turn around a little bit so that your family can get your face in the picture. So this proclamation is given in commendation of Rancho Cordova Police Department Deputy James Crozen. Whereas on the night of July 25th, 2016, deputies working for the Rancho Cordova Police Department were dispatched to a residence regarding a sick or injured person calling for service. The text of the call indicated the complainant said in Spanish that her child was not breathing and was dying. Both deputies James Crozen and Michael McCoy responded to the call in emergency code 3 status. And whereas both Deputy Crozen and Deputy McCoy arrived at the same time, they observed a Hispanic woman holding the child who was 16 months old, holding the child in her arms, and the child was crying. Deputy Crozen took the child from the arms of the mother and determined that he was not breathing. The deputy noticed the child was physically responsive by moving his arms and legs, but his eyes were rolled back, revealing the whites of his eyes, and his lips were blue in color. And whereas Deputy McCoy immediately asked dispatch to have the fire department respond and waited at the front of the apartment complex to guide them to their location. Deputy Crozen determined the child had a pulse in his arm, and it appeared that he might be choking on something. The deputy turned the child face down on his forearm and administered 5 sharp blows to the upper back of the child, which dislodged thick mucus and saliva. As Deputy Krausen examined the child on his side, he could hear the child begin to wheeze and to struggle to breathe. As the child continued to fight to breathe, Deputy Krausen turned him face down again on his forearm and administered 5 additional sharp blows to the upper back. The child continued to wheeze intermittently and had difficulty breathing. And whereas, at this point, Deputy Krausen placed the child on his side and used his own finger to sweep the back of the child's oral cavity and removed more mucus and saliva from his mouth. The child reflexively bit Deputy Krausen's finger as he began to laboriously breathe and wheeze. Deputy McCoy led the fire department to the apartment. The family members present primarily spoke Spanish, but Deputy Krausen was able to communicate with the mother, who stated that her child had been sick with a fever. She had checked on him that night and found that he was not breathing. The mother rode in the ambulance with her child to the UC Davis Medical Center for treatment. And whereas the exceptional conduct of Deputy Krausen and Deputy McCoy resulted in the preservation of this child's life, the decisive and immediate actions taken by the deputies is to be commended and is worthy of a life-saving medal for outstanding performance in the line of duty. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Rancho Cordova does commend Deputy James Krausen for his service to our community. And our mayor has signed and sealed this proclamation for you, and it must have been excruciatingly hard as the father of young children to have to deal with something like that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, very much.
Absolutely. I know the family is incredibly thankful. Would you like to say something?
I apologize for my son ruining the moment of silence at the beginning of the council. I don't think I did anything that any other officer in the situation would have done. I was just glad we had a positive outcome.
Wonderful.
Pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
Oh, ma'am, ma'am.
In the middle of this room.
Okay. Sure. See if that'll work.
Come on, kiddos. Beautiful. Thank you all so much. Now I'm going to call on our city manager for some awards for employees.
I'll just go at the podium if that's okay. Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor and members of the council. In 2013, we started a tradition of introducing and acknowledging the employees that had received their 10 years award. So tonight, here I'm pleased to acknowledge and recognize 3 additional employees who have joined the ranks of those who have served for more than 10 years in this city. Let me start with Michael Rodriguez, and if I could ask Madam Ms. Vice Mayor Butch to join me here to hand this award. Let me start with Michael Rodriguez, if I could have Michael come up. Thank you. Lisa Brown usually presents these awards with me, and she's not feeling well tonight, so I'm taking this on. And just a few factoids about Michael. He started as a contract employee on December 5th, 2005. And on October 20th, 2007, he was hired as a full-time city employee as a code enforcement officer. Michael believes that the best highlight of his 10 years with the city is being part of the change for the city of Rancho Cordova and the community of Rancho Cordova. He has implemented a full-service animal service program that serves the residents 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And he has taken the opportunity to train as a code enforcement officer and has dealt with many of foreclosure properties that caused issues in the community during the economic downturn. Michael has trained code enforcement officers, police officers, postal staff, residents, and children how to recognize and deal with aggressive dogs. So that's expertise that I really need to get some training on. Michael takes a lot of pride in being part of the volunteer activities such as Kids Days, Christmas in Cordova, and neighborhood cleanups. He has also he sincerely appreciates his coworkers are very, and recognizes that they're very special people that care about what goals they continue to accomplish as well as those that they strive for. Michael also shared, it's wonderful to have the feeling of being a professional work environment and a family of the city of Rancho Cordova, where everyone knows everyone and takes the time to appreciate what each person does and gives him such pride in what he does in this workplace. So with that, thank you, Michael, and I appreciate all you've done for the city of Rancho Cordova. Next, I'm going to ask Mr. Reed Flory to come up here, please. Reed was hired on October 2nd, 2006. So it's a little over 10 years now. And he has been overseeing our CDBG program for 8 of the 10 years. And very proud of his accomplishments. When you look at what Reed has been able to do with some of, and I'm going to highlight some of the projects. The first one is the crossings at New Rancho. He was able to find seed money, a developer, and then structured the purchase of 5 distracted properties, relocating dilapidated apartment buildings, residents, and coordinated the construction of the crossings as a high-quality affordable housing project. The second one, he was very instrumental in getting crossings at Woodbury Way. He generated pre-development funding, coordinated city eminent domain action to acquire the Stagger Inn, and relocating the business and demolish the building, and coordinated the current efforts to develop a quality affordable rental property. And that is still ongoing. And if many of you recall what Stagger Inn looked like, it was probably one of the worst places in the city that needed immediate attention. Another major accomplishment that Reed has had, he was the person who conceptualized and was able to implement the 3 phases of Mather Veterans Village. With the work that we've done, we've been able to invest about $56 million in the project. And with the phase 1, we awarded actually it was an award-winning project, and the development of phase 1 that included 50 apartments of supportive housing for homeless and disabled veterans. He also, with extensive services that are 100% occupied. He continues to work on phases 2 and 3 of the Mather Veterans Village, and we expect construction to start this calendar year for these 2 phases. And we're keeping our fingers crossed, and some funding pieces have to fall in place. Reed also devotes a great deal of his time for volunteer activities, and he has said that what he's most proud of is assisting in the coordination of soccer and play days in the Cordova Meadows, neighborhood and service various support activities for veterans, including participation in Christmas gifting and invitation to the city's Christmas all-hands events. With that, here I want to present to you and present the award to Mr. Reed Flory. And Michael, I should have given you an opportunity if you want to say something.
It's been an extremely good ride so far, so thank you.
Michael, would you like to say?
Yes. I just want to say thank you very much. It's very much appreciative to work for the city of Rancho Cordova. All the pleasures on this side. It's nice when I meet all the council members, they know me by first name, ask me everything what's going on. I think that's very appreciative by employees. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure working for Carrie Simpson all these years, too. Thank you again.
Thank you, Michael. Next person I would like to recognize is Carrie Simpson. Carrie, if you would please come up. Carrie was hired on October 3rd, 2006, so a little over 10 years now. She has been responsible for building an award-winning comprehensive code enforcement program that has improved the quality of life for our residents. He has worked on improving the quality of housing through a comprehensive rental housing program, including the demolition of the Cordova Inn, First Value Inn, and the Bradshaw Inn. So if you remember those properties, you know why we take pride in demolishing those properties. She has participated in Blightbuster program, which educates residents on neighborhood standards. She has taken on new challenges like legislative affairs and homeless issues, and I'm very grateful for Carrie's commitment to those programs. She has also participated in numerous volunteer hours, such as neighborhood cleanups, Christmas in Cordova, PAL events, Kids Day in the park, and so many more. Carrie is most proud of serving the residents of Rancho Cordova. I'm very grateful for the commitment and dedication that Carrie and the other two employees have for this community and for the city, and it's really true. It's great to have them part of our team. Thank you, Carrie, for all you have done. First of all, do you want to say anything?
I just want to say, as usual, thank you for the support of Cyrus, Kurt, and the City Council. Without your support, we wouldn't have made all the changes that we've been able to do in the next 10 years, and you're not getting rid of me quite yet, so thank you.
That's a good thing.
We also have another employee, Diana Rodriguez, who has also reached a milestone for 10 years, but unfortunately she was not able to make it tonight, so we will recognize her at another event for a future meeting. Thank you very much.
Terrific. Thank you, Cyrus. So now we're at the point on the agenda where it's time for public comment. Our California Constitution provides that everyone in the public has an opportunity to address the council on matters that are not on the agenda. If you came to speak on something that is on the agenda, whether it's on the consent calendar or another part in the agenda, there will be an opportunity for that. But if not, then anybody is allowed to come and speak their piece for 3 minutes. City Clerk, do we have anybody signed up?
Yes, I have one speaker card from David Constantine.
David, welcome.
Thank you. The situation here, I sent an email with a photo and a link. So the photo is, this is a building issue. So we are trying to build a courtyard in our home and then a carport a redwood carport right in front of it for two cars. We have a huge driveway, like a six-car driveway, and we only have 2 cars. And this is a very ugly driveway. It's very hot during summer. So we are trying to beautify our space and also, increase the house value and consequently also increasing the value of the houses of our neighbors. So we think that is a win-win situation. I went to the building department. I explained the project, and then they said that it is in contraposition with the city ordinance. So I just wanted to come here and express our hope that maybe by you taking a look and seeing how the house looks now and how it would look later, and taking in consideration there is no safety issue whatsoever. It's just, again, as I said, a win-win situation for everybody if the code can be flexed. So pretty much it's just about that. Again, I sent an email to Mimi with a photo of how it would look like, and the link is a Google link that you can see how the house looks like right now. So that's pretty much it.
David, thank you so much for coming. We did get your letter tonight, and we'll read it. In the meantime, Kurt, would you be happy to talk to Mr. Constantine? He'd be happy to talk with you and help you get to other departments that you may need to consult.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Yes.
Thank you. I should also add that if anybody came to speak to an item on the consent calendar, this would be a good time for you to let us know you need to speak to that item. So seeing none, we're going to go on to council reports. The council will be telling us everything they've been up to in the last 4 weeks or so. David?
4 weeks. Well, I'm just going to go back to January 1st. We actually started, my family was in Santa Fe. I don't know how many of you have been in Santa Fe, but that's a kind of a remarkable place for a lot of reasons. But one that really struck me was in the older part of town, how much they have stuck to a certain character of structure. It can be a modern structure, an older structure, but they all look like they belong in Santa Fe. It's really a remarkable amount of design control I think they've implemented there, and it shows. It gives great value to that place. So that was remarkable. I can share more with you about Santa Fe offline. I just have 3 items I want to mention. I was able to do a radio interview with Phil Cohen and KTKZ last Friday, or 2 Fridays ago, and it was about the connector project. There was that article in the Bee in December about the connector, and is it still a project? And that I really had to clarify a bunch of things with Phil and with other members of the media. But I think it was a good interview. It went on for about an hour. And it struck me that this is one of the very few public affairs radio shows that still exists anywhere. So Phil's a local guy. You go over to Salem Broadcasting, and he has 1 hour that he commits 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock every day, focused on these sorts of issues in the community. Now, some of them will be an author from somewhere, but that is really, I think, a remarkable service to the community. If you think about who else does that, it's pretty much John McGinnis on KFBK, and maybe there's one other, a little bit of Capital Public Radio. But it's an interesting thing. So that was a great effort, and I think, having been there and talked with them, they'll probably want me or others back for other similar topics. So that's a good connection. 2 things. I am, again, SACOG Transportation Committee Chairman, and so we are looking forward to a new year with a new executive, and focusing on, among other things, like an upcoming MTP. Believe it or not, they keep rolling around. You've got to undertake the next project. But focusing on the impact that driverless vehicles may have and how that would affect our planning, the region's planning, and what we need to do to prepare for that. So that's clearly a focus for SACOG. I'm also, as you probably already saw, the new Connector Board JPA chair, sort of by default. They just looked at who'd been on the board before. They didn't want someone who was brand new to the board to be chair, and so I think I was just chair 3 years ago or something, but I'm back in that role again, and that's my report.
Super, thank you. Bob?
Well, one thing that I think everyone knows is we have, in January and February, we have quite a few crab feeds. This coming weekend, the 21st of Saturday, is the crab feed for the Cordova High Marching Band. So you can probably call there at Cordova High and get a hold of Mr. Sims. and find out if there is still some left, and I'm sure there are some tickets left. The next weekend, the 28th, will be another crab feed for the Knights of Columbus in St. John Vianney's. And on February, I don't have the date for the crab feed for the Rotary Club. And there's probably a couple more I'm missing someplace, but people like crab feeds around here, and they all use at one location because you have wonderful facilities there in the kitchen. So they use that at the hall in St. John Vianney's. So that's one thing. We had a meeting today at the Mosquito Vector Control Board. Kind of interesting, the Audubon Society came to that area where there's quite a few different species of birds. There was 32 this time. There are 13 less than last year. And I think that's probably because of all the heavy rain, because it was perfect for some of the birds then, but it isn't right now. So that quite a few of them left. They've completed the virus testing for the encephalitis. Dead bird surveillance is done until April. The sentinel chickens, they use chickens all the time for testing for virus. That's going to start in April again. Exotic and sensitive invasive species surveillance. They'll be, they brought all traps back to the trap. These traps they have is magnetic traps, and they are no longer being produced, and they can't find anyone who can fix them. So the ones that are still working, they have. You can go to the store and buy a much more inexpensive one made of plastic, and they work for a bit, but they don't have the kind of stamina that the Mosquito Vector Control Board needs for their magnetic traps for the mosquitoes. So that's something they're working on right now. They have staff there at the district who are working on providing brand new ones different than that, magnetic ones. And the tick and Lyme disease is under surveillance, but they haven't had anything right now, probably because of the rain also. So that's pretty much what I have on that, and whatever we have new, nothing on the any new diseases. The West Nile virus is still around, but they're still waiting to see if or when they have any tests that will show any new viruses here. Right now, all we have is that and your usual stuff that gets everybody else. So I'm done right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob. Dan?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I don't have anything exciting to talk about birds and dead things and things like that. I represent us on the sewer board, so.
No magnetic mosquitoes?
No. No details, Dan. No details on that, no. We did have a meeting last week, Regional Sanitation, and the new chair is Larry Carr from the city of Sacramento, is the chair for this year. And there is a Prop 215 rate increase flyer that has gone out to everybody, and everybody's gotten that already, and explanations are coming out, and they don't have any of the meetings covering that in Rancho Cordova, but I'm going to ask the agency to come out and explain and talk to us and give us an update on the rebuild of the sewer treatment plant too. I did attend a study session here about zoning, and that was quite interesting, part 2 of it. And that's really about it so far. So,
Do you want to, do you have the date for the Rotary Crab Feed?
it's the 3rd Saturday of February. So I think that's the 18th.
20 or
Third
22,
Saturday is,
something like that. Yeah,
have a calendar
one
in
of
front
those.
of me. I'll have some more updates.
Okay, thank you. But you missed the item in the paper about regional sand, talking about the rare white deer they found out at the plant.
Let me cover that. Okay. When they built the regional sanitation plant 22 years ago in Elk Grove, to scrape the earth and start from there, all the earth that they moved, they put it into one end, the northern part of it, of the property, and they created something called the buffer lands, which is about 20 acres of natural, beautiful environment. And apparently, we've always known, and they actually print a bufferlands calendar every year, which is really neat. And it's got of all the animals and all the birds and everything, those species that live in the bufferlands is on the calendar itself. Really, really unique. And apparently they have discovered that there's an albino deer, male albino deer in the herd that's there. And there was some pictures in the paper about that. I zoned out and didn't think about that, yes. But such a rarity, they did a nice article about it, keeping an eye on it, because it's such a rarity to have an albino. I think it's a mule deer. And something very unique. So only been spotted by staff a couple times, but they put some night cameras there and got some pictures of it. So very unique situation there. So
Super.
thanks
Thank
for
you.
reminding me.
The third Saturday is 18th.
18th, okay.
Okay, great, thank you. So the only thing I have to report on is regional transit. And you probably did read in the paper in Tony Bijak's column that the big issue this time was whether or not to advertise beer and wine on buses and train ads. It turned out to be way more controversial than was expected. We have some elected officials in the region who are on the Regional Transit Board who are adamant that there should not be any advertising of beer and wine on the trains or the buses.
On the outside or the inside?
On the outside. Steve Hansen, and I completely agree with him, felt that that was a good source of revenue for regional transit, which is very much in need of good sources of revenue. From my perspective, I truly don't think anybody is going to care any more than they care about all of the beer ads that you see in every athletic event on television. You know, I didn't see the issue, but there was a good compromise reached, which does allow for all of the local restaurants, in keeping with the farm to fork thing, to allow for all the local restaurants to advertise, and they can show a glass of wine or a pint of beer or whatever, just as long as they don't advertise whose brand it is. So Dave will have to find a different way to advertise American River Brewery on the buses or the trains. So.
And you say it's on the buses and the train? or
And the
just-
trains, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we will turn it over to the city manager for his report.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. A few items. I just wanted to, first of all, start by congratulating the council and also the community about owning the City Hall now free and clear. This is a major milestone. We when we purchased this building, we issued what we called and referred to as the Certificate of Participation, which is simply a financing mechanism for funding city-owned facilities. And about last fall, we felt that it's about time to be thinking about taking advantage of the low interest rates that we have in the market and refinance like you refinance your personal home, refinancing the city hall and the city-owned facilities. So we went to the market, and lo and behold, the day that we were priced to do this, we were scheduled to do this, happened to be the day after the election in November. So there was some volatility in the market, and we chose not to go for pricing on that day, and we held off and waited for the opportune time to do this. And fortunately, that day arrived on January 10th, and we felt it was the right time to do it. And we were managed to basically sell the certificates of participation like tenfold within the first hour of our opening the market, which allowed us to even lower the interest rates than what we had anticipated. Just in a nutshell, the rough cost, the interest rate that we were able to get is about 3.44%, about $220,000 reduction in our annual debt service. And for the life of the loan, for the life of the certificate, it's about $1.4 million savings, and about 7.4% of the total amount. So this is definitely a milestone. And as part of the process, we were also able to restructure the loan or the participation, the certificate. So we got this building and the city hall basically free and clear and restructure that by restructuring. Second item I wanted to remind the council is that we have planned a council visioning session, a pre-budget session on January 31st. And our primary purpose of the workshop is to clearly identify the priorities that would be the focus of our budget preparation for the 2017 and 19 budget. And also we want to make sure that these priorities are aligned with the council's citywide goals and reflect the ideas and direction provided by the city council at recent retreats. So I want to remind you that this is scheduled for January 31st from 12 to 5. And last but not least, I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce Captain Chris Pittman. Chris, if you could come up to the podium, please. Captain Pittman is started serving as our police chief 8 days ago. And he's a known face to this community. He served as the assistant chief in 2014, and really great opportunity to have him back in our community and to be serving as the chief. I want to also take this opportunity to thank Assistant Chief Kate Adams, who's also sitting in the audience, for her service and also the time that she served as interim as we were trying to go through the transition with the new police chief. So I want to give an opportunity to Chris to say a few things about himself and his goals and visions for the community.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. City Manager. I just want to say it's a huge honor to be standing here before you as the police chief of Rancho Cordova. So I'm very fortunate to have lead such a great police force here. The men and women here are amazing, and my assistant chief has been doing an outstanding job. And I just, again, I'm very, very touched to be, had been chosen for this assignment. So I always think back to when then Mayor Skoglund, I was driving him and his wife around with my little son on the golf cart at 4th of July. And we've always remember the stuff that we do here in Rancho Cordova, and we never left. So when I promoted...
whiplash from that?
Yes, I do remember my son put his foot on the gas pedal and the mayor went flying off the back. But, oh, no. But those were... there was nobody who got hurt that day. So, but all joking aside, I did get promoted and I did move on down to the Mothership Sheriff's Department downtown, but I never left Rancho Cordova. I stayed connected with the PAL organization, which I'm the president of, and tried to attend as many events as I could. And I tell you, something special is going on here in Rancho Cordova, and the culture here and the vision the city has is amazing. It's something that I've not experienced elsewhere. So I just wanted to thank you very much for this opportunity. I have been working hard, getting to meet all my new officers and getting back acclimated again. But this is a wonderful honor of mine to be here before you today. So thank you.
Super. Congratulations.
Thank you very
Welcome.
much.
Thank you. Just a question on this. We own City Hall, but that also means we own all of it. We own the property. We own the one-story building with the Children's Museum.
Let me clarify this.
Okay.
The Children's Museum, the building on the Children's Museum is a separate parcel, and that is still under the loan, the debt. So this building and this property and this parcel is what I'm talking about. That's free and clear.
Okay, because when we talk to people, we say, well, the city bought this, and we have the City Hall, and we also own the building over there where the Children's Museum is, and the the parking lot, all that sort of thing. I say, well, let's get it exactly clear, because I wanted to make sure that we were talking about both pieces of the property.
It's at this time, it's only one piece, this City Hall.
That's good enough right now.
I also want to take this opportunity to thank our finance team. They did an outstanding job to get this moving and make sure that we got the right pricing at the right time.
Super. Thank you, Cyrus. So we'll move on to our consent calendar, which are items 9.1 through 9.7. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine in nature, and unless a member of the audience needs to speak to one of the items or a member of the city council wants to pull one, they can be entertained with one motion. So council, I don't see anybody from the audience.
I'll move consent.
Thank you. Mindy, would you call the roll, please?
Thank you. Councilmember Sander? Councilmember McGarvey?
Aye.
Councilmember Skokeland?
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Budge?
Yes.
And for the record, Mayor Terry is absent.
Super, thank you. We'll then go on to our consent public hearing items, and we don't actually have any of those, which brings us to our public hearing items. Item 11.1. Did you come for this item, 11.1?
But before I want, it's beside this. I came for something different.
Please come up to the podium so we can have you on the record.
Well, see,
Did you fill out a card in the back?
no, I did not.
What item did you come to speak on?
I just want to thank the Rancho Cordova police for supporting me as a small businesswoman. I've never had a chance to thank them, but they've been very supportive. Every time I call them, they come running. And also one of the police of Rancho Cordova started a cup coin where everyone drops their change, and it would help other people who cannot buy gas. Every time somebody is short of gas, you would get from the cup, a coin cup that the Rancho Cordova police have started. So I just want to thank them very much.
Thank you
Thank you,
very
that's all.
much. I'm sure since they're here tonight, they really appreciate hearing that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mindy, item 11.1.
Item 11.1 is Mi Rancho Administrative Use Permit, Conditional Use Permit, Letter of Public Convenience and Necessity for Off-Site Alcohol Sales, Project Number DD 9666, located at 10669 Coloma Road.
Thank you. We'll turn it over to the Planning Department.
Good evening, Vice Mayor Budge and council members. My name is Nick Sosa, Assistant Planner for City of Rancho Cordova. The project being presented tonight is the Mi Rancho Market. They're requesting an administrative use permit for grocery store use in the Village Center mixed use zone, as well as a conditional use permit for the off-site sales of beer and wine. And as part of their application with the Department of Alcoholic Beverages Control, they are required to receive a public convenience and necessity letter from the city. Some background on the business. Their Mi Rancho Market, they have approximately 37 full-time employees with 2 part-time employees. They operate 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. And their products that are available are a meat market, fresh produce, bakery, general retail items, and a taqueria. The site is located at 10669 Coloma Road within the Rossmore Shopping Center on the corner of Coloma and McGregor. The Village Center mixed-use zone is intended to provide centers of activity within walking distance from neighborhood homes and to provide local serving commercial opportunities. As mentioned previously, they're requesting an AUP. The project location was previously a Dollar and Thrifty, which sold just general retail items. They've expanded their use to include fresh produce, groceries, and a hot deli at the request of their customers within their neighborhood. These are photos from their location, the interior and the exterior of the store. As part of the AUP review, parking was calculated, and the overall center requires approximately 161 spaces. The retail center currently contains 266, which is adequate for their required spaces. This is a overall site plan that shows Mi Rancho on the far right. The rest of the tenants are in red, and the blue is a separate property owner that's not part of this application. The applicant is also requesting a conditional use permit for the off-site sales of alcohol. At this location, the applicant would like to sell beer and wine as part of their store inventory. The proposed area for alcohol sales would be less than 1% of the total floor area of this store. This is a floor plan showing the entire Mi Rancho market. That space in red is where they would have their alcohol displayed for beer and wine. As part of the CUP application, the project was routed to the Rancho Cordova Police Department, who responded with the following conditions of approval, and that have been agreed upon by the applicant. Some of these conditions of approval include that the alcohols would be permitted for sale between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. At no time shall a single unit of beer and wine be sold individually. Rear doors must be equipped with automatic locking devices and shall be closed at all times. Wine sales shall be bought in bottles no less than 750 milliliters. No exterior advertising is permitted, and the exterior of the premises must be adequately illuminated during business hours. The applicant will also have 24/7 surveillance and a hired security guard if their application is approved. Mi Rancho is submitted for a Type 20 alcohol license for the off-site sale of beer and wine with the Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control. Due to the higher average reports of criminal activity within the site, around the site, ABC requires that the applicant receive approval from the city by means of a PCN. Shown here is a list of the provided by RCPD showing reports taken within half-a-mile radius of 10669 Coloma Road. This list was provided as part of RCPD's response in conjunction with their conditions of approval. That list also supports ABC's requirement for a PCN as a higher crime rate in this census tract. This census tract map also shows that there are 5 other active business or alcohol licenses within that same tract. Here's a list of the active alcohol licenses, 3 of which are within the same shopping center. However, only one of those licenses are for the off-site sale of alcohol. In anticipation of the required PCN, the applicant has conducted a survey within their store with the following questions. Are you satisfied with the quality and service at Mi Rancho? Do you think Mi Rancho has improved the quality of the surrounding neighborhood? Do you cook or marinate your food with alcohol? And would you like alcohol, specifically beer and wine, to be sold at Mi Rancho? The results showed that 100% of those taking the survey agreed with that they were satisfied with Mi Rancho's quality of service and that Mi Rancho has improved the quality of the neighborhood, and that customers would like to have beer and wine sold at the store. 85% showed that they do cook or marinate food with alcohol. As part of the review, staff determined that the project site was adequately analyzed for CEQA and exempt under existing facilities, that since the grocery store and the additional sale of alcohol will not have potential for causing a significant effect on the environment. In conclusion, the staff report includes the necessary findings for approval of an AUP and CUP. The proposed grocery store is consistent with the intentions of the VCMU zone. Mi Rancho has agreed to all conditions of approval for increased on-site security, and the applicant has presented customer surveys conducted in store showing a need for alcohol sales at their location. Staff recommends that the council determine the project exempt under section 15301 existing facilities and approve the AUP, CUP, and PCN for the Mi Rancho project, DD 9666.
Thank you, Nick. Are there any questions for staff? Dan?
Nick, you indicated that the operating hours at this current time are between 8 AM and 8:30 PM?
Yes, that's correct.
And under the conditions of approval, they're requesting a operating time from 7 AM to 10 PM.
The police requires that
police-
alcohol sales be limited to 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., but the store is only open till
So the store's going to
8:30
stay
p.m.
at 8 AM to 8:30?
That's correct.
Their operation hours?
Yes.
Will deliveries to the store occur at that time frame also? Nothing before or after?
Deliveries to the store would be outside of business hours.
Outside of business hours, so before 8 AM or after 8:30?
I believe so, yes.
Can we get a clarification from somebody representing them?
We'll have time for the applicant to speak in a minute.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, so I only had one question. Given the definition of the village center mixed use, why do we require an extra permit, the AUP? It meets, it implements exactly what the village center is supposed to be doing.
That's a good question, and that's something that we discovered as well, and perhaps as part of a next update, we can certainly look into that. We're having to update a couple of other things as a result of the zoning code update in the Folsom Boulevard specific plan. This might be another opportunity to provide some other consistency, such as what you're recommending.
Great, thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, do we have an applicant? Yes, please come forward.
Good evening. Okay, so as Nick Sosa.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Jenny Song, and I'm with Kijin Song here, and we are here for Mi Rancho. As Nick Sosa has just mentioned regarding the business hours and the delivery times, we will be delivering within the 8 to 8:30 timeframe, and no deliveries will be made outside of that time frame.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
Yes, I actually wanted to add some personal the side story on our side. And basically, we purchased this property in 2013, and during this time till now, we've been making a lot of investments in time and money to renovate this shopping center to what it is today. And it used to look like it was abandoned and it was in terrible condition, but now a lot of neighbors and people around the community are comfortable coming and shopping at this grocery store. And we've had a lot of Rancho Cordova council Chamber of Commerce members come, and they were telling us good reviews. They were saying how much has changed and a lot of positive feedback for us. And we just wanted to thank you for giving us the opportunity to present this case to you guys. So, yeah, thank you.
Super. Questions for the applicant? Bob?
Actually, not a question. I'm just going to say we're one of those customers.
Okay.
Yeah, we have very high marks for your the time and everything you've been putting into that. Quality of the food and everything there is really high.
Thank
and we're
you.
very pleased with that. We live 3 or 4 blocks away from you, so we use it quite often. It's very convenient, and we're glad to see that. I was kind of interested, though, when we first started looking at the census tract, but then I realized you're in a different census tract than that store we said no to before, south of Clummer Road and McGregor. Different census tract, different conditions. So that was quite interesting. I thought that the tracks are so odd. Now, that one corner is of Zinfandel and Folsom, for instance. There's 4 different census tracts on that one corner. That's really odd. But with you're in a different census tract, that makes things a little bit different. So thank you anyway.
Thank you.
Great. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Did anybody else come to speak to this item? Okay, then we'll close the public hearing and ask if anybody has any questions or comments.
You know, I'm generally opposed to issuing new liquor licenses in quick stop situations or in liquor store operations or in stores that could become predominantly liquor oriented. I believe that we have far more than we already require in terms of market share in Rancho Cordova for those sorts of businesses. But there are two exceptions in my mind. One is for restaurants, which require a liquor license in order to provide what is commonly expected at a nicer restaurant, the ability to purchase wine or beer, as well as for grocery stores. And as Bob just demonstrated, I think neighborhoods like this are really benefited by having a local grocery store that people can go to easily, that they can establish relationships with the people who work there and the owners. And I think it adds a lot to the quality of life. And to my mind, this does not promote the sort of problems that we continue to see around established liquor stores in Rancho Cordova. You don't see that in a grocery store environment. As long as it's a well-maintained space, as long as they have security, as long as they have a good relationship with the police department, they control their property, I think this will not be a problem, and so I will be in support.
Bob, do you have a comment?
I'm kind of going along with David on that, and looking at this proposed display area would be less than 1%. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I'm not for this too.
Okay, Dan? Okay. So City Clerk reminds me that I did not formally open the public hearing, so I'll do that. Ask again if anybody would like to speak to the item. And nobody is jumping up, so we're going to formally close the public hearing. My comment is that in a city that has been full of food deserts for quite some time now, and I hate that phrase because I often think that the general media does not count anything except a national brand when they consider food deserts. But we truly have been without, period. And so finally, we have gotten two important segments of our community where there used to be grocery stores. We've now had grocery store opportunities restored to those areas, because I know that Bob and Dan and I remember when that was Jumbo or Farmers, and I don't remember which, but it was one of them. Yeah. It was one of the main grocery store locations in town. And I appreciate the fact that they are both international grocery stores. That's just fine in my book, but it's important that we accept these grocers who are willing to do this, just as we would Safeway or Raley's. And so I really appreciate this store. I stopped by yesterday. I thought it was adorable. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So if there's nothing else, then we'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I second that.
Great, thank you. Call the roll, please, Mindy.
Councilmember McGarvey?
Aye.
Councilmember Sander?
Aye.
Councilmember Skoklund?
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Budge?
Yes.
And
thank
for the
you.
record, Mayor Terry is absent.
Great, thank you. So, thank you very much. We appreciate what you're doing for that part of Rancho Cordova. So we'll move on to our regular calendar items. Item 12.1, this is the fun part.
That's one way to describe it.
Right.
The challenging part.
No, this is the fun part. And we appreciate the fact that not everybody perceives the fun part in the same way. Mindy?
Item 12.1 is approval of final design and location of Folsom Boulevard murals, selection of the Lincoln Village art installation, and authorization for the city manager to negotiate final contracts and installation details.
Great. Well, we're going to turn this over to Albert, surprisingly enough. Albert, I hope you're having fun.
I am, absolutely.
That's good.
And I think these are, as an engineer, the opportunity to add beauty to our environment is something that I really appreciate. So this has been really fun projects to be a part of.
Super, thank you.
And so I am here this evening. Good evening, Vice Mayor Budge and council members, Albert Stricker with the Public Works Department. And I am here this evening to give you an update on what we've done so far and ask for council direction on the installation of murals on Folsom Boulevard and proposed art installations in the Lincoln Village neighborhood. Background on where we are so far. On August 15th of last year, council selected 3 murals for Folsom Boulevard, and 2 of those had quite a bit of detail. One of them was more of a sketch, and council asked for additional detail on that one, and we have more information for council this evening. And council also selected 2 locations near Los Nogales, and I'll be proposing a 3rd location for council consideration tonight. On May 16th, council suggested to include an art installation in the new bulb outs that were a part of the Lincoln Village traffic calming project. And we collected proposals, and we have those for council consideration this evening as well. The total amount budgeted for this project is $80,000, and it's $30,000 were budgeted with $15, $16 as a part of the fence replacement project that's going in near Los Nogales. And then $50,000 was allocated with $16, $17 as a community enhancement fund allocation. The goals for this evening are to consider the more detailed proposal that was provided by Warren Dayton, to finalize the proposed location of the 3 previously selected murals, select the preferred Lincoln Village art installation, and then approve the project expenditure. These are the murals that were previously presented to council. And
Albert, can I ask a question under that last comment, approve the project expenditure? If we, and it may not be a question for you, but I'm sure somebody knows, if we wanted to go over budget, does that take a huge amount of paperwork and decision?
what I would propose, and in the recommended motion, is that council would delegate responsibility, authorize the city manager to negotiate the final contract.
Okay, I just wondered. Thank you.
That would give the city manager the authority to go beyond that budget if necessary.
Okay.
These are the 3 proposals. The proposal by Kathy Rowe was quite detailed, and this is what you saw before. Also by Sid Wellman was detailed. This is the original draft that was provided by Warren Dayton, and council asked for additional detail, which Mr. Dayton provided. This is with greater detail, colored in, and it's approximately 6 foot tall by 30 foot. But just so we can see some of the detail, I split it apart here. On the left side, there's a Native American theme, there's an agricultural theme, a relatively current day urban theme, and then on the far right is somewhat of a futuristic theme.
Looking at the mural on the iPad, there's a lot more color on here than it shows on the screen up there. I think that shows much more detail and a lot more color. This is kind of almost like a pastel, and it's not really pastel though it looks on this. There's a lot more to it.
Agree.
So the Xerox or the iPad is more accurate than this? Okay.
Correct. In the sketches that were provided by Mr. Dayton, they definitely seemed more colorful than this. And I should point out also that Mr. Dayton and several of the other artists are here this evening, so certainly if you have questions about the details of their proposed artworks, they're here to answer questions too.
Great.
The proposed locations, when we had met last time, council approved the locations up at the top right of your screen, which is where at Los Nogales, where Kathy Rowe and Sid Wellmans are proposed to go. This is on the fence that's being replaced with a new masonry fence. The proposed location for Mr. Dayton's work, at the time of the previous council meeting, we were looking at the private wall that's just west of Rod Beaudry. Subsequent to that time, we identified a location that is actually staff's current recommendation, and that is on Regional Transit's wall on the south side of Folsom Boulevard near the southern terminus of Coloma Road. We are currently in conversations with Regional Transit. It seems promising that they will provide approval, but we have not officially received that approval yet. So at this time, we would ask for council to authorize the city manager the flexibility to consider either of those locations that works best.
Since we really have several distinct projects here, should we go ahead and vote on finalizing the Dayton design and authorize the staff to choose the locations and get that off the table? Does that suit everybody?
Sure.
Okay.
That's the council's desire.
Does that work, guys? Can we have a motion to that effect?
We could, but I do have a question I probably should have asked a little earlier about design elements here.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Should we do that now?
Yeah.
So specific on Mr. Dayton, since it's up on the board. There are obvious historic elements included here, and I don't have enough detail either on the iPad in front of me or on that screen to see, for example, that train could be labeled Sacramento Valley Railroad, which is the historic first railroad west of Missouri that ran right through Rancho Cordova on that corridor. I don't know if it's so labeled or not. So that, and you could probably extend that to a number of elements here, and this is where it gets awkward for me. I mean, I'm a scientist, I'm not really an artist. I take pictures of things, but that's not at all doing this truly creative bit of art I see in front of me. Another example of that would be right below the A, there's a very obvious sort of modern architectural building. I'm wondering if that could be represented as the very distinct building at the corner of Zinfandel and White Rock that's just sort of diagonal from where we are here.
The RMI building.
Yes,
Yeah.
that building could be here. Should Mill Station appear in the appropriate time period along this?
If you look at the top, second building from the right is sort of,
But not quite.
not quite.
So that's-
But you
that-
know, okay, I understand your point. The question is, if you think about the old chamber logo, this is artwork. Should it be like the chamber logo, or should it be artwork?
This is why I prefaced it with, I'm a photographer, not a creative artist in this sense. So I'm a scientist in real life, so I deal with reality and facts a lot.
Yeah.
And this is more interpretive, and if that's what it's supposed to be, that's fine. But if there's room in this, and I really don't want to impinge on the artist's ability to do what they want to do, but if there's room in this to include those elements that are part of us, if that's what he was after, then I would say we should facilitate that.
So do you want to, I assume he's here, do you want to ask him? Is Mr. Dayton here?
Mr. Dayton is here.
Mr. Dayton, would you like to come and comment on David's critique?
Sure. And I have some things to hand.
Oh, great.
Wonderful. Okay.
Thanks for having me here. My name is Warren Dayton, and there are depictions of historical buildings in there, and they can be revised so they are more accurate than they appear to be. And you'll also notice on the by the D, there's the first A&W building.
Oh, you're right.
But there's other buildings in there that are, more of them are under the Rancho part, which is more of the historical buildings that I found on your websites, history pictures, photographs, and so forth. And of course, anything you want to add as far as words, names, or any other visual things you want me to put in there, I can easily do that.
So-
Including kites.
Including kites?
Kites.
Okay. So you wouldn't be offended if they're a building that David wanted to look more like Mill Station, or the one down at the bottom look more like the building across the street?
Sure, that'd be better.
Or
Makes it better.
there's probably a list of objects, Linda, if we thought about historically in Rancho Cordova, what do you associate? I mean, like a B-52 would have to be one of those that we would, it may not fit here, but that would be on that
Well,
list.
there is an airplane.
Wonderful to have a list of things you'd like to see in there, and that's easily done.
Okay. Well, we appreciate that offer. That,
And I certainly don't want to impinge on your artistic license or abilities, but I appreciate this very much.
yeah.
And so you will be there to take photos, right?
Yes.
Super. Thank you so much.
Vice Mayor Budge, could I ask, is the council okay with basically forming a subcommittee to work with staff for those details? Or should we, so we don't have to come back to the council?
I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay in asking a couple community members to just sit down for, I don't know, an hour and just think about nouns and places. That
How about David and I get together and do that?
might make sense.
That's the council's wish. Yeah.
Then we can provide him with whatever he needs, photographs or whatever.
Okay? Super.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great piece of art. This one is so alive. I love
Terrific.
this one.
I love the March of Time thing.
Yeah, it's great.
And it's even got a Pony Express horse.
That would be on our list.
That would be on our list. That's the one thing that somebody will remember got dumped off the Rancho Cordova logo. The light rail ran over the horse.
You can also put in Abraham Lincoln.
Oh. Put it ad old Abe. Okie dokie, thank you. So, shall we get rid of this part? Shall we
I'd be
finalize
willing
this part?
to move to approve the locations the staff recommended and give them the ability to maneuver on the last location. But I think the one you proposed and pursued is probably the best. In terms of eyeballs seeing it, I
Yeah.
mean, that's just a perfect location at the end of Coloma.
I'm inclined to agree, and not only that, it's really an area that might, the whole purpose behind that arch, okay, and I didn't finish the sentence, but the whole purpose behind that arch was to give that neighborhood, to try to give that neighborhood some sense of pride and location recognition, some sense of place, as they say, okay? And that's only been 10% successful. So having something like this added to that area is probably a really good idea. So, do we have a second to David's motion?
I second that.
Okay? Do you want to call the roll?
Yes, please. Councilmember Skoklund.
Aye.
Councilmember McGarvey.
Aye.
Councilmember Sander.
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Budge.
Yes.
And for the record, Mayor Terry is absent.
Great. Thank you. Okay, continue.
Thank you very much. On to the Lincoln Village installation location. We completed a traffic calming project last fall, and council suggested to evaluate options for art installation in the bulb outs. We requested proposal, and 2 teams submitted beautiful proposals that we would propose to install at the intersection of Explorer and Meteor, which is in the Lincoln Village community, just in front of the A.M. Wynn Elementary School. And that's the star on the map in front of you there. This is a street-level view of the bulb outs. Just behind us, on the left side of the picture, is AM Wynn, and we're looking out down towards to the right at Explorer, and Meteor is going down towards the right there. If you can see in the bulb outs, when they were constructed, we left spaces open in those bulb outs to accommodate the artist's future installation. And this is what they've proposed to fill. So briefly, the two proposals that we received, the first was by Annette and Mike Hecox, Anastasia Nelson, and Phil Dinan. The media are ceramic tiles, mosaic, and paint. And the proposed cost is about $64,000, and that includes some site preparation that would be necessary we would work with the artists, determine what thickness we need, and we put in the right base on the bottom of those openings. So there is some work in addition to the artist's work, and that's how we come up with that estimated cost. This is a proposal by Sid Wellman, Doneen Wellman, and Linda Nunez. The media are tile or glass. The estimated cost with site preparation is $28,000, and this is the staff recommendation. But of course, it's at the consideration of City Council. To consider for all of the works that we've talked tonight, certainly these will be in the weather 24/7. They are potentially, unfortunately, subject to vandalism, so we'll consider items including anti-graffiti coatings. There are various options for the media that could be used, including paint, tile, etc., and that's why we are requesting that the city manager be authorized to negotiate the final details. Just to summarize the artworks and costs that we talked about tonight, the Kathy Rowe mural at $7,090, Sid Wellman mural at $20,691, Warren Dayton mural at $21,650, and then the Wellman team installation for Lincoln Village is $28,000. Those are estimated costs based on the final details. It could vary somewhat, but the total estimated cost using those values is $77,431. Our budget is $80,000.
Questions for staff? So I had one, Albert. The only thing that struck me as unique about let me start off by saying I loved reading the staff report. I mean, this was such fun. I loved everything everybody had to say. Having had to prepare for proposals for architects, for boring agencies like the Corps of Engineers, this was just pure fun. I loved the presentation. I loved the way in which people described what they wanted to do, the backgrounds on the different artists. I mean, the whole thing was just totally a winner. The one thing that I found unique is that one of the proposals included a breakout item for actual artist cost. And I just wondered if that's unique or if you have seen that in the other proposals.
I don't recall exactly relative to the other proposals. But I think some did break it down more and certainly some less. This is a more detailed breakdown where I did see in there where they had an estimated number of hours and an approximate cost per hour that helped them to get to their final decision. Many of the others were more lump sum line items that we saw. So
Okay.
it really varied proposal to proposal.
So, and if we were to choose the proposal that suggested working with the school and including the planter area in front of the school, who do we expect would do the physical work for site prep?
I would have to work with the artist to see exactly which parts they included, because I know that that artist was proposing additional work outside of the bulb outs and including even some landscaping. And I don't know if they had planned to do that work themselves or if they would need some additional help with either city forces or another contractor. And we would need to work out those details with the artist.
Okay.
Is that all three of the murals that we're talking about, possibly landscaping to go along with the murals? Okay.
No, actually, this is for the the new bulb outs at AM Win. We're not.
Not the other two.
No, we did the murals.
All right.
Okay, this is just discussing the stuff at AM Win at the school. Okay.
It was the Hecox, Nelson, and Dinan that
Right.
proposed some additional work, which is at the bottom right of the screen now.
Okay, well, why don't we ask everybody if they'd like to talk about their proposals? So Annette, do you and Mike want to represent your proposal?
Well, I guess Mike will go over in more detail, but the major thing that we also added was not only landscape, but also a wall. Because, well, I mean, to back up, first we want to apologize for Phil and Anna not being there tonight. They really wanted to be here, but they were unable to join us. We thank you for being here and having the opportunity to present our proposal. We really wanted to collaborate on the project, and the fact that we had that opportunity, we thought, hey, why not? Let's give it a shot. So that's how it all started. But when we saw the actual site, we felt like our bubbling creativity was kind of a little contrived, and we thought, hey, maybe we could go a little more vertical than the required horizontal scope. So that's how it kind of all started. But now Mike will go more in detail over the proposal, and again, we thank you for having us tonight.
Okay, well, first of all, we kind of started thinking on the same lines as you people about how does the landscape and the wall and all that work, and decided it would probably be better if this was split into two things. If you want to consider the landscape and the wall as separate, put those out to competitive bidding. So we would basically design it, draw plans. We're also landscape architects, so we can do that. And have it a second phase from the art. That would bring the art into a quicker realization, lower price, and a better time frame that's more consistent. But a lot of this came from us walking down the street and looking across and saying, you won't even see these things from down the street. Also, the street is a long, straight street going right at a school building. And we're looking at, what if somebody drove down here? You know, if we had something there, that would make a statement. It'd be something you'd see from farther down the street. It would also have a bit of a security aspect, although I think if you hit it with a semi, the wall would buckle and they'd go right into the building anyway, but more of a landmark than that. It would give us some vertical surface, and it would also be something big enough that over time we could have the students designing tiles or art as part of some curriculum that ties in to space exploration. And then the landscape was going to symbolize Earth and the biotic environment, and maybe there could be some milkweed for monarch butterflies and some other educational tie-ins that could go in there. So as they'd add the tiles, you could have fundraising, you have other activities, which is all way more than just posing these guys in the bubbles. So we're thinking that we talked to Phil and Anna, and they're perfectly happy to do the original project, resubmit with a different lower cost that doesn't involve a crazy wall. And then,
Obviously, in our double amount, we do have the wall and the landscaping, and so everything was numbered.
so anyway, so that's where we are now with that whole crazy design. And thanks for listening to our ramblings and crazy artist ideas.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
Questions for Ned and Mike?
What was the, is it just money you're thinking about with the crazy wall, or is it something that doesn't seem to work now?
Well, it was, they said the time frame I reread it, it said days, and the wall is more like weeks or months.
That was whatever we wanted.
Well, partially the time frame, partially the money. Partially the fact that the wall should be built by licensed contractors as well as the landscaping, and none of us are licensed contractors. So basically, we'd be having to draw plans, go through bidding, all that, you know, the usual things that you guys are all familiar with. Instead of just having the artists, they're saying, create it in their studio, have it ready to go, and then it's a much simpler installation. They can just basically drop it in, mortar it in, whatever installation technique they choose with you guys, so that it's in, it's done, and the bubbles aren't, right now, they're just holes in the ground. It would be nice to get them filled sooner than later.
So like
So
an
it's
option A and option B.
Kind of an option B, or phase one, phase
Yeah.
two kind of thing.
Personally, I thought the idea of involving the school kids was a great idea. That makes a lot of sense, especially given the creativity of that particular school as a Montessori school.
And if they have, all they need is a kiln and, you know, some materials, and go to town, and each class putting that, and over time, the people would see it building, so it wouldn't be as static. So it was all of that kind of stuff coming into it, interactive.
The Park District did that over at White Rock Park. I think everybody who went over there, then they took them over to the senior center and fired them in their kiln over there, something like that. So it works.
It'd work, it's just that it was like, that should probably be phase two, now that we think about it, but when we were out there looking at it, we're saying, let's do all this, and then we said, wait a minute,
We also
implementation.
thought it was right for you as a city to have the opportunity to bid it accordingly, like, you know, just not have one price, have several bidders, and then choose the right contractor you
Or
want to work with.
It's possible that the school maintenance people could do a lot of that irrigation and landscaping too, so you would just need the mason
Well,
for the
it's
wall.
just also the landscape really didn't look very appealing.
Oh, yeah, it's probably
Well,
mud
it
right
was, it was summer or end of summer, but there was a dead tree and there was really nothing there. So, you know, when we tried to look around, say, well, where else could we play? It was like, hey, there's a big place there. So,
Or people will walk up and say, hey, this is beautiful art, how come there's a dead tree and a bunch of, oh, well, anyway.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that.
Yeah, well, we've
Okay.
had enough dead trees removed, like along Folsom Boulevard and the light rail and everything, that, we had some of those removed also, because, and then there's, as you go through the state of California, you find quite a few millions dead trees. And I
Yeah.
think they have absolutely, unless you're looking for a tree for Halloween, I don't think the dead trees do give much to you.
No.
Okay, so how about we hear from the other team now?
yeah, and we're delighted to see that we know them.
Yes.
Linda, Sid,
Linda,
and
Sid.
Donin.
Good evening.
Council. My name's Sid Wellman. This is my wife, Donine Wellman. This is Linda Nunes. We originally just bid on what was proposed to us, so we didn't have any monuments, so we could build some, but this is going to be a project addressing the area which is on Explorer and Meteor, and so we kept it in that style or theme, and it's going to be tiles, different tiles, and very bright and fun and playful, and so is there any questions of?
No real questions, but I'm going to go back to what was said earlier about the fact that this mural would give the kids there, as they go down the road, as you see something, as your parents see something, they point out that, something like that, that gives a lot of kids an idea of what a mural is, because quite a
Okay,
few
but
of them.
that's the other
Yeah.
proposal.
They don't know any, I'm just thinking about how this would be beneficial to the community as a whole. This one and the other two also. It gives kids something that they don't really know. And kids really don't know unless they've been given the opportunity to see some of these things. So I like this, thank you. So.
I just wanted to mention the content of our pieces. We've gone into space, we've gone into history with Columbus, and we've gone under the sea. So we were trying to tie that into actually local street names and that it's in front of a school, elementary school. So.
Super. Thank you all very much.
One other thing, we're also looking into adding a glow-in-the-dark tile which absorb light in the daytime and glow in nighttime. It's in limited color, so we probably will use it, incorporate in the design to add another inner design at nighttime. But we're still researching that, so.
How funny.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, questions, comments? David?
This is the hard part. I like both ideas. I like the fact that they sort of, one proposal came up with something we weren't asking for. That I agree would be an enhancement to the project, something more vertical, something more obvious, because they're right. Somebody driving down the street won't notice this necessarily. You gotta look down to see it. You gotta walk to see it, and fewer people are walking, although we're certainly encouraging it, and that's what this original project was all about. That being said, I think, given the two that are on our screen here, it's very difficult for me to come up with a preference. I think I like the content on the left. I like some of the design elements a little bit more on the right. So I'm quite torn about which one. If I was forced to make a decision, I would probably go with the one on the left. But it might be worth exploring with the school what options we would have on that immediately adjacent property. And I would note, it's an ongoing issue with this is a Sacramento Unified School District school site. So we have ongoing issues with them and how well that site is being maintained. Cyrus, I think that's something we raised in a 2x2 6 months ago or something on that order. I don't know if they've made progress since then. Frankly, I haven't been by to look. But it was
The current aerial does not look, it just looks brown.
they have a different maintenance standard than we're used to in the Folsom Cordova or the Elk Grove schools.
That's too bad. It really is.
We're working on it.
Albert, I didn't see anything anywhere about the size of the little cutouts, the target spaces. They really don't look very big.
Trying to back up here.
Flash drive, if that helps.
This is the closest.
The ones closest to you are a few feet by a few feet. The largest one is all the way kitty corner. You're not able to see the plan view.
Over by the street sign?
Yes. And that one is the entire bulb out.
And did you have a comment?
I'll answer to that question.
Yeah.
It's on the original. The original design. Good evening, Vice Mayor Linda Belch and council members. I'm Ben Chan with the City of Rancho Cordova Public Works Department. For the specific dimensions of the cutouts, the square ones, it's more or less rectangular. It's 2x3. The circular one is a 3-foot diameter. The bigger piece is approximately 17 feet by 4 feet wide. And then there's some triangular ones that's like about 7 feet long and then about 3 feet or so.
So Ben, we're not able to go closer to the curb. I mean, those two we're looking at here. That opening's pretty small.
Yeah, we try to keep a 1 foot curb width, so that, in case if it's run over or whatnot, we got a little space in between. We got a little distance from getting hit by a car or whatnot, a vehicle.
This is the first time we've tried anything like this. I don't know if anyone in the region actually has tried anything quite like this, but.
So, it's,
Okay, so
but those are
let's
the
ask,
dimensions.
There's a comment back in
let's
the
ask
corner.
Sid and Linda to come back up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Here's a picture for, is this here? Does this show?
We
Or we can
turn that
pass it
on.
ar-
Is it the photo up?
How does that, oh, awesome. Does that help? It'll give you a little bit of an idea of.
That's a good perspective.
Compared to people, what size and shape those
They look a
openings
lot
are.
better, a lot bigger when you all are standing
Yeah,
out there
it
by
does.
them.
And actually, you see the texture of the surface around it too, which is.
Sure. So which planet are you going to put the round one? Since it's a circle.
Oh, that's going to be the, like a compass, north, south, east, and west. I forget what it's
Ah.
called.
Interesting.
Directional.
Interesting. Okay, so it feels like there's more space to work with. To me, it looked like something about this big, by about this big,
Not large,
so
actually, yeah, it's a good size.
very small. Okay, thank you. That's very illustrative. So our choices are probably to bite the bullet and make a statement and choose somebody, or to ask for a 2-week continuance and have the other team go back and turn in a similar proposal. What do you all think? Just dealing with the flat work.
Yeah, it is somewhat complex in that one bid has a vertical element. We're not sure we can build or what the most efficient way to build it would be.
Right.
And the other does not. Is there a version without the vertical element? Is there a quote without the vertical element?
That's what they would need time to bring back.
Actually, since they're two different.
You need to be up on the microphone. It just comes across as dead air when nobody is
Oh,
on the
okay,
microphone.
sorry. It could also be that you pick their proposal for the first and then take time to consider the wall. That way you don't delay the project. Since they're separate enough that they could work either way. Their tiles are tiles. They're both pretty similar, colorful installations for this area. So I don't really see a conflict.
Okay, then candidly, though, how do you all feel if the school district says no way?
Then they say, no way, we tried. It's fine.
Well, it's a very nice offer.
We're just here to give ideas.
Yeah, no, it was an idea to put it out there, and since it wasn't in the original offer anyway, that's the risk if you stick your neck out, you mean.
But I do really appreciate the suggestion. I think you're correct. We would be better off with something as a clue here that there's more.
But we talked about the district might say, oh no, that's more maintenance. Oh no, it's vertical, it might get graffiti. Oh no, for a lot of reasons that they might just nix it anyway. So that's why we said we should separate it and have it as a discussion point.
Well,
I just thought also, just to make it maybe more equivalent, give a chance to our artists to resubmit just with the flat work. This way you would have eggs to compare with eggs, in other words. Because right now we are giving you something with the wall and the landscape. So it's not comparable to only the flat work. So that's one thing that could be considered, unless you want to make up your mind tonight.
It wouldn't bother us.
Okay, what's the pleasure?
I like the idea of having to talk to the school district to see if there's, and that we may decide on something tonight and the district would say no, or, nothing, but I like the idea of talking to them anyway. We've talked to them a few times on occasion, and I want to see what they would say as far as us putting that in there. We have some wonderful options here, and I think it's something to come back with again, rather than trying to make a decision on that tonight, not knowing what's going to go with the school district. I'd rather have both, what they're talking about, what we're talking about. So let's bring it back again.
Yeah, the challenge for us is if we make a decision tonight, we're actually winners either way because we've got such incredible proposals. So,
Plus, Donald's not here, and I'd like to have his input on that, too.
Council, if I may,
yes.
Another option to consider is to move ahead with the design that you have in front of you, and like the one we did for Mr. Dayton's artwork, look for another opportunity in another location for this other alternative. That's something that we are doing for the first time. They both seem to be great pieces of artwork, and we install one at this time and look for other opportunities for a different location at a different time.
I think having that in Lincoln Village would be greatly appreciated. Seeing what they've been doing in the last couple of years, they're really expanding their horizons on the community itself. So I think that's a great idea.
Albert, do we have another similar project planned, or what about at Rancho Cordova Elementary where we're installing the sidewalk? Is there going to be anything like this?
We don't have bulb outs in the sidewalk project, but we do have plans to hopefully do future NTMP projects. So although there's nothing on the... excuse me, traffic management plan projects, thank you. So there certainly would be opportunities in the future.
That sounds like a really good option.
So what are we deciding or not?
Well,
So Albert, there are existing bulb outs elsewhere in Lincoln Village, probably not far from here. This is the only one that we sort of have prepared to receive art. The others are just filled with, poured concrete or cement block or something?
Correct. So that could be an option.
A retrofit cost, I don't know how significant it would be if it's cement block set in place, presumably that'd be cheaper to remove than a poured concrete.
So like at the intersection of Explorer and Lincoln Village Drive?
Uh-huh.
On the way to school?
Yeah, just a block or so away from this one, I think.
It would certainly be physically very doable to saw cut out whatever sections needed to make room for an installation.
Would that be more costly than the art we're talking about?
I would have to put together an estimate. It really depends on the location.
Okay. Sometimes those sort of public works details can be crazy expensive.
Okay, so somebody courageous needs to make a motion.
I would propose that we accept the Wellman Noons proposal, and we also engage the school district with a discussion about is it possible to add a vertical element on their property adjacent to it, and that we continue with Hecox, Nelson, and Dinan with regard to either another location or participation in that vertical element at that school site.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. So I'm going to call the roll, Mindy.
Councilmember Sander?
Aye.
Councilmember McGarvey?
Aye.
Councilmember Skoklin?
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Budge?
Yes.
And for the record, Mayor Terry is absent.
Okay.
Well, thank you all very much.
Absolutely.
This is really,
Yeah, for
really
sure.
enlightening. Really a great thing for our community.
Deserve applause.
They do, they really do. I mean, everybody's.
Okay.
doing
And
great.
if we hadn't liked both proposals so much, it wouldn't have been so difficult to make up our mind. This is like having a wealth of talent in our community, and we really appreciate it. So, okay, Albert will be in touch. Thank you all very much. Okay, item 12.2.
Madam Vice Mayor?
Yes.
Just a technical question. Cyrus, just put you right on the spot. With Measure H, in our last go-around, we had some money that was, I think, set aside for art, unallocated. Is that what we were just talking about? Spending a portion of that?
I believe, I want to make sure that Albert is listening to this conversation. I believe that's the case. That was the plan.
And if that's true, I believe some more remains, probably. This will not consume everything we had sitting there.
You may have some left capacity.
You know, it dawns on me, though, since you talk about that, Albert actually had a fourth item, and we were supposed to approve the budget. Do we need to go back and do that?
My suggestion, I think, with the the decision that the council made tonight, let us explore a real location and a real cost, so we could come back to you and identify the specific location. And at that point, if there is a need to make a budget amendment, we can make it and make that move forward. At this point, we can even agree on a tentative budget, but the real cost may be different, and we have to renegotiate or rediscuss the item. So might as well let's just find out exactly what
Okay.
it takes and then make that decision at
Do
that
we
time.
need to approve the expenditure for the 3 murals?
Yes, I believe that was part of the overall motion that the council made tonight.
Okay, all righty. We'll assume that was. Okay, great, okay. Thank you very much. 12.2.
Item 12.2 is discussion and direction on Horizons at New Rancho Affordable Senior Housing Project, changing to an affordable family housing project, crossings at Woodbury Way at 10447 Folsom Boulevard.
Vice Mayor Budge, members of the City Council, I'm Reed Flory, your Reinvestment and Housing Opportunities Manager. We're here tonight to attempt to bring closure to the redevelopment of the Stagger Inn redevelopment project area and its poster child, the Stagger Inn. We need to spend some aging grant funds, and we need to use the site or end the use of the site as an illegal camping area, among other things. As summarized, we're requesting consideration of moving the tenancy or changing the tenancy from senior rental to family rental. On April Fool's Day, 2010, we brought down the Stagger Inn. I happened to listen to that event from Hawaii as David Gasaway held up his cell phone, and I applauded with you. Over the next several years, ending with occupancy in 2012, the northerly portion of the site was developed as a rental complex named Horizons at New Rancho. It's 18 units, 17 rental and 1 manager's unit. It has been in successful operation and developed and owned and managed successfully by Urban Housing Communities, UHC. We began in 2013 efforts to develop the remaining 1.1 acres, that fronting on Folsom Boulevard. We had, as a concept, approved through design review, a 48-unit, 3-story facility for seniors, rental facility. We have tried every source of grant funding that I'm aware of, most of them several times, and not been successful. The lack of success, I think, can be summarized with 3 points. One, the major funding for all of these kinds of efforts is tax credits, and there is a 10% cap on the amount of money that can be allocated for senior projects. There is about a 70% cap for families. We lacked size. We were 48 units, but we had a lot of fixed costs, and we didn't have the units to spread them over. So in the ranking and point system, we were a little penalized there. Finally, the tax credit tiebreaker is all about getting tiebreaker points, and those points are associated with a reduction in the requested tax credits. It's a little more technical than that. The way you reduce your request is to put soft money in the deal, other than tax credits, that thereby reduces the amount of tax credits you ask for. Generally, jurisdictions are able to append a small amount of mortgage on top of the deal based on the rents and the net available income to debt service that. Our rents are too low. We cannot structure any second mortgage on this, thereby adding to the soft money. the large coastal areas with higher rents and actually better access to some of the bigger projects beat us every time. So this, quite candidly, in 42 years, is the only project I've ever backed away from. And I've not gotten an award before, but not after this much effort. So we took a look at what's available, and we recognize that the crossings is as you can see, the back side, the northerly side is the crossings. The star indicates the area for the senior project. We are asking consideration of a families development. The families development is really just in the infancy stage in terms, we don't have elevations yet that we could share with you. It is a 28-unit family project made up of 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms, 2 bedroom, 2 baths, 3 bedroom, 2 baths with tuck-under parking and surface parking. It will have very much the flavor of the crossings, and we believe strongly that we won't need any additional funding and that we will get our threshold of tax credit basis points and be competitive. So that's the ask. Will you support and allow us to return to you next month with a amended DDLA and a design review package offering a families development? Questions?
Questions for staff? Dan?
Oh, thank you. Let me remember back. Would that affect our arena standing?
No.
No? Okay.
It will, there's one thing I failed to talk about because I don't know the answer. That's always a little.
That's a good reason not to talk about it.
Redevelopment required replacement housing, 1 for 1. And we didn't quite satisfy our replacement efforts with the 17 units. So that's another factor. I don't know if that law still applies to us. But being a good houser, I'm kind of committed to the concept of replacement. And it appears as though the 28 units is a modest kind of density.
So we're talking about the 17 already there, and then the 28 units you're talking about right now.
Well, the 17 affordable rental, and then it would be 28 units, 27 of them would be affordable rental. One of each on both projects is a manager's unit.
Okay.
David, do you have any questions? You're thinking about it?
So it's just really the senior aspect that we have not found marketable.
Yes.
Right.
That's
Or fundable, I guess I should say.
It is not competitive for funding.
What an irony that is.
Dreadful.
It's more than you might suspect. We're an older population in this city. We are aging faster than the rest of the county. Our seniors are in poorer health, and they are generally just less wealthy, poorer. I propose or will propose a campaign. There are some census tracts which get bonus points in this city, and I think an elderly project is a necessity. We're the only city that does not have an elderly project since we've been incorporated, and that's strange.
Well, theoretically, we have Somerset.
Not affordable.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So both Citrus Heights and Elk Grove
Oh,
have
yeah.
pursued them?
Oh,
Lots
Elk
of-
Grove's all over it.
And Folsom?
Folsom's got a bunch of them.
Affordable senior?
Affordable seniors, but
Yeah.
not recently, not recently.
And it's all because they can charge higher rents and that.
They can charge higher rents, and they had better collections of 20% set aside to start with, and they've run through that now.
Yeah. So, does location have anything to do with the lack of competitiveness?
Yes. If we're in what's called what is it called?
Difficult to develop.
Difficult to develop census tract, it opens the doors for a different kind of funding, and they're off of Mather Mills Drive to the east.
I don't see how this cannot be difficult to develop census tract. That must, Bob, when you talked earlier about the 4 census tracts at the intersection of Zinfandel and Folsom Boulevard, we must be getting bombarded by one of those. That's ridiculous.
It really seems to be somewhat artificial, but we're stuck with it.
So, okay, so a technical question, though. How in the world do you put 3 bedrooms and 2 baths into 1,000 feet?
You do.
I mean, the bedrooms must be 8 by 8.
I can't tell you what there are. We'll be coming to you with the design review package, and that's a very good question to ask at that point in time. I know in a HUD 202 development, we're creating small bedrooms about that size in the old HUD developments, but I haven't seen a footprint of a unit footprint yet.
Well, unless people are sleeping on cots or bunk beds, I will tell you that Beazer, Beazer's current units in the townhouses, the 2 or 3 strips of townhouses, 4 strips of townhouses that they have, they've got a couple of bedrooms because they're trying to squeeze a lot of bedrooms in. They've got a couple of bedrooms where you can just barely fit in a bed, 1 nightstand, and a small dresser, and still walk around. Okay? So I don't know how you take only 1,000 square feet and accommodate 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and a common room and a kitchen of any sort. It just, but so is the mix of units, are you developed enough to know if the mix of units is important for their performa?
Yes. 3 bedrooms are the point getters. And you work backwards from your yield and you determine what your maximum points are for derived from 3-bedroom count, and then you work your square footage from there.
All right, what if they lowered the number of units and added either more space to the 3 bedrooms or more 3 bedrooms?
That is an excellent question. I can't answer that.
Okay, so those are questions for later. All right, so the only other question, quite frankly, and I see the planning department sitting over your left shoulder, given that this is something we want and we need for the health of Folsom Boulevard to use up this empty piece of ground, why would we charge them all that money for a zoning amendment when we could simply put them through a zoning amendment and waive the cost?
Well,
zoning amendments are not cheap.
You're certainly setting a precedent, and we have the funds. That isn't a sufficient answer, but it's a reality. And I need to keep Aaron. Aaron and his department have really helped us and been over backwards.
Well, they'd still need to process the zoning amendment because you've got to have a formal review and run through CEQA and have somebody physically say this piece of ground is suitable for this particular land use. I understand that. My question is, why don't we waive the cost of doing that? Since this is something that we're actively seeking.
Well, I'm sure with that impetus, I will ask Aaron to consider.
It's just a thought.
Yeah.
Council, if I may, I can just add a little clarification on this. I believe the action that's being requested tonight is simply the change of use from what we had before to this new concept. I highly recommend that at some point, possibly even during our budget process, that we have a conversation focused on the financing of the project and the overall cost of it and the overall investment that the city will be making. So that's a recommendation that I would like to make, that at some point in the near future, possibly as part of our budget process, we talk about all the funding and financing element of the project.
Okay. Okay, so you're not asking for a formal vote up or down, you're asking for a direction.
Correct.
So can we provide a direction, David?
I don't know. I'm wondering if some entirely different use might be appropriate here. I'm unprepared to say this is it, I guess is what I would say.
Affordable housing use?
Yeah. Or something else. I'm sort of open at this point. If we can't get the senior affordable that we're interested in, maybe we need to relook at the neighborhood or something, see what else would make sense in that area. This is an area I've been spending a lot of time in, as Kurt knows, code enforcement knows, just almost as an experiment on my part, looking at homeless issues in that particular neighborhood, looking at apartment maintenance. Several of those complexes there were heavily remodeled a few years ago. I've sort of been tracking them on a regular basis to see, are they maintaining what they remodeled? Of course, I'm looking at our, project next door, which is maintained very well, and apparently doing very well. And of course, this empty parcel, which is a constant sort of challenge and problem for city staff. So, I don't know. There are lots to the west and lots to the east here that are occupied or semi-occupied that don't have great uses on them. It'd be wonderful to see something bigger, come along and make a change here. Maybe this is the step towards that. I just need to step back and think about this a little more.
The strip to the west, to the east is one of Rancho Cordova's oldest buildings.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. And it's a cluster of buildings, but it's a cluster of buildings and separate parcels, but it's one of the oldest strips on the street.
How many owners?
4, at least.
A lot of challenges there, yeah.
Yeah, at least 4 different parcels and 4 different owners.
3.
Yeah, 3.
1 or 2 of whom are quite elderly, and 1 at least is out of town.
Let me ask a question about the 60% below the area median income. Couldn't this also be 27 units be used by senior citizens also, even though it wouldn't be a thing for senior citizens? It seemed like it would fit on that. And the fact that we're putting this right in front of the new 17 apartments that we built and are being maintained at low income there, it would fit in that same fold, I would think. Having the low income there and then right in front of it, trying to do something that would not fit that, it seems like it would be much better to have that there. I know it's different than what David was saying, but I'm looking at this as something that would be beneficial to the senior citizens, even though it doesn't say senior citizens. And it would be helpful to at least give them some location for senior citizens. We need to look at whether it's rezoning or whatever. We need to have some locations where we can build some homes for senior citizens. And I don't want to have the same kind of a battle, even if we may have it, to have the soft money problems and all that sort of thing. That seems to me like it's really something making it really hard for senior citizens. And whether it's the state or not, I mean, there was one of the first few years we became a city, we had a meeting, and there was one of the meetings with a mayor of a very small town. They only had 1,400 homes in the whole city, and all of them were listed as low income. But they wanted to build new homes. However, the state said, well, you're building new homes, you have to have a certain percentage of those homes as low income. I said, that doesn't make any sense at all, to have the whole town is low income, but if you're going to build new ones, you have to add more low income. I said, why doesn't that count as the low income? And then you can build something new, A lot of things don't make sense to me. This soft money thing doesn't either. But right now, looking at what we're offering right here, the 28 units, and giving the senior citizens a chance, I like that idea.
Reed, what disqualifies us for the difficult development areas?
What qualifies
What
us?
disqualifies us? Have you looked into it? I mean,
Oh, yeah, it's a combination of income, employment. It's a whole bunch of federal demographic and economic factors that we don't control. They spit out a map with census tracts on it and say, these are difficult to develop areas. And
Said by some wise person in Washington, D.C., no doubt.
exactly.
Kurt has a comment for economic development.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor Budge. Mr. Flory's done a really good job in bringing this to you and reviewing it, and I just wanted to remind the council on a couple items. That area is under the microscope for economic development. We have a list of opportunity sites that we'll be bringing to the council for, possible investments or public-private partnerships. Unfortunately, this area doesn't turn as fast as other areas of our community would. It would be almost nearly impossible to build a new commercial building at that location and get the rents, which would need to be about $2 a square foot, to reimburse the landowner or the business owner, for their investment. So nothing really pencils there right now. I asked Mr. Flory to look into this because as a community member and a staff member, I wanted to see some progress happen on this piece of property. You have a couple choices. I mean, we can continue down the same path that this might be a senior project and continue to look for partners or, look for other ways to secure that soft money that we talk about, which is more time down the road, or, give him a certain amount of time to look at options to put more of a family type of housing there, which would, I think, sooner than later, fill that area up. With that big hole there and some other changes of businesses in that area is going to be kind of blighted for a while. And so what I was trying to do is generate some economic activity to hopefully draw some economic development to that area. But you have a choice. I mean, we can continue down the path. As you know, Mr. Flory and his team is very aggressive. They look under every rock. They throw out a big net and they try to get as much financing as we can. And up until now, we've been unsuccessful with the senior project. So this was just another opportunity. But you can stay the course if you feel very strongly about that.
Mayor, may I offer just one more piece of information? The 17 units, Horizons, is a marginal operation. It can no longer support a 4-day-a-week on-site manager. We're fortunate that the manager lives on-site, so he's pressed into service whenever he's needed. But we're aware and we monitor their cash flow. 17 units don't pencil.
Because it's so small.
It's so small. Basically, you need to be in the 30 to 40 unit range to be able to accommodate a minimal level of services to your tenants and an on-site manager. As you remember, this was a horrible condition.
Oh, absolutely.
And we asked every developer that I knew of and those who have showed any interest at all to look at this. And the only developer that responded was Urban Housing Communities. It also, the acquisition, the relocation, the hazardous materials removal, the demolition, all involved some pretty exotic federal funding that we actually got a waiver to use for acquisition and redevelopment. It was NSP money. It was supposed to be used for single-family acquisition and flipping. And we went to Washington and got a waiver because we read a little provision about that would allow us to do that. And so those monies are aging. and there's a performance time frame involved. And I'm very concerned because we do have what appears to be an excellent window to land the last $6.5 million, $6.1 million that we need. But a whole series of state bond monies are going to translate and be available for our competition starting in June. It's money that was allocated 2 years ago, and it takes about 2 years to sign the contract, get the money out.
So
And
this is still urban housing. This
It's
is
still
just a different product.
just a different
And
product.
it adds to the number of units in the general area that they would own, which makes it more financially feasible. Why don't we tell them to go up another story?
4? Do we have the zoning?
We can do that. We can do that.
We would run into some parking considerations and some other zoning
I thought I saw
considerations.
something about tuck under parking.
There's barely enough right now, the ratio parking, well, that's getting into the design review, but we're meeting the minimum as it stands. I'm Stefan Heisler, reinvestment analyst for Reed.
No, with economic development.
Under economic development.
Also, I think it's important, Vice Mayor, that we remind the public that this money that was used to take down the worst housing in Rancho Cordova must stay low-income housing. We can't just convert it to,
Right.
or you're going to be paying millions back to the federal government. So this is a promise that we made to taxpayers. This is a promise we made to developers. Either we stay on course and we keep trying to get the senior housing, or we change course and go family. It isn't that we're trying to create more low-income housing. This was a responsibility from the past that we must do.
I understand. I look at the, I know that I have written this up and shared it with everybody, the one project that I saw in Austin. And admittedly, the city of Austin is on their second voter-approved bond measure that creates funding for low-income housing in the city of Austin. It's, in some respects, it's a very enlightened thing to do. But this one particular project, which it was not a lot of units, granted it was probably way more than 28, but not a lot of units. And 1/3 of it was for seniors, 1/3 of it was for young families, particularly single-parent families with the parent not over 25 and kids in the house. And then 1/3 of it was for regular low income. So it's maybe it depends on who you market to. If you can't say, since you couldn't get the funding for it, you can't say it's age restricted, but maybe it depends on, maybe there's a need that we can fill by marketing to a target group of people.
You hit it right, exact. We can't restrict this absolutely because we have families, we have 3 bedrooms involved. But we can actually add language to the disposition development agreement, loan agreement, that requires, and I don't believe the developer will have any objection, elderly or great tenants generally, that he give a best efforts to load his 2s with senior households.
Yeah.
I think one of the few requirements is with the families projects and the number of bedrooms is the household size. So with the 2-bedroom, the minimum household size is 2, and for the 3-bedroom, the minimum household size is 3. So that doesn't preclude seniors at all.
Okay. Okay, so we heard David's opinion. Bob, how do you feel about it?
Well, I have a question for Kurt. I couldn't really understand it. Were you for this, building these 28 units? Since it's low income, it has to be low income, then this 28 units development we're talking about is something that you see as a positive thing, to use this staggering property for something that will be good for the community, be good for the location, because we can't change it because of what it was when we tore it down. And when I was saying having this for senior citizens, it was just something that I was saying is possible for them to use that because it's low income. I'm not saying it's, okay, this 27 out of 28 is senior citizens. No, I'm just saying it's something that would be possible for them. So, yeah, I'm for this proposal, and I just wanted to clarify what Kurt was saying, that's all.
Dan?
It's too bad that the alternatives are the pits, because obviously we need the senior housing. So, this is something we could use also. It's an alternative, yes. It's an area that we need to develop. I have no problem with this if you get the right developer, right partner.
It would be the same as the people next door, who've done a
That's
really
great,
good
yeah.
job.
They really have, so, I have no problem with this, but, might wanna keep looking for a couple more months unless we got time sensitive. Like you said, the money's getting aged, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And we have March 1st deadline for the tax credit application.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I totally appreciate David's comment, but I have to say that I just, when you consider that nobody wants to build any kind of retail or anything else on Folsom Boulevard, and there's certainly no office, and this is in the middle of the boulevard, the only advantage is that it's got a bus stop, which is very fortunate, and we're struggling. Albert's still here. We're struggling to hang on to our bus line on Folsom Boulevard so that regional transit doesn't eliminate it. I actually think this is making the best of a bad situation. And I would add my support. So it's 3 in support.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to be the best we can use with this. I don't wanna miss another deadline, like March 1st. I wanna get going with this thing.
We return to you with the design review package and the amended DDLA on the 21st of February, so you'll have a chance to hone it.
Okay.
Thanks for all your efforts and everything you're
You
doing.
could probably convey to them the questions that we've asked. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate the comment about the performa, but 3 bedrooms and 2 baths and 1,000 square feet, I find creepy. Okay, so that's the end of our regular agenda. We turn to council requests for future.
I think we have one more item,
sorry.
Madam Mayor.
Oh, wait a minute, we want to buy a building. Sorry. 12.3.
12.3 is resolution authorizing the acquisition of property and authorizing execution of a purchase and sale agreement and a certificate of acceptance and recordation of a grant deed for 3303 Leung Drive in the amount of $1,017,500, APN 07205000004.
Yeah. Besides, Steve has waited for so long.
You worried me there for a moment. Do we have a clicker still?
Here.
Did you get to talk to Lester Holt yesterday?
I met Lester Holt yesterday.
Oh, tell
He was
us.
very gracious. Yeah, we were in Old Sacramento and he was broadcasting the nightly news there. And I walked up and I said, I work for the city of Rancho Cordova. And he said, I love Rancho Cordova.
Too bad he didn't say it on camera.
He did not know, but he was very gracious.
Super.
Yeah.
Well, there are plenty of people in the region who are willing to claim him as theirs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Surprisingly, given that he's ours.
But I have had a wealth of comments today because I did put something on Facebook. And I have had comments from back east, from a lot of people in the region who had no idea. And NBC Nightly News is very popular.
Yeah, he was great. He was very good. Well, thank you, Vice Mayor Budge, members of the council. I'm Steve Harriman with the Department of Public Works, and we're here tonight to talk about a Public Works Corporation yard. We currently share space with facilities and code enforcement at RCNC on Gold Tailings. We have really outgrown that space and we're busting at the seams. We've been looking around for properties around town probably for about 8 months, and we've been working with Bob Nolasco, and we've looked at multiple properties. And we're asking council tonight to approve a resolution authorizing the purchase of 3303 Lou Young Drive in the amount of $1,017,500. So currently, we are really out of space at RCNC for equipment, inventories, vehicles, and people. Our team is growing. As you know, we've taken over the storm drainage, we're doing litter abatement, we've taken over the care of the light rail stations, and our city continues to grow. And we continue that we're going to continue growing as the city develops. So how does a courtyard help us? Really much better coordination within our operations and maintenance team because our customer service representative and field staff will be dispatching from the same locations. We will have much better and much better organized inventory and storage of things that we use on a daily basis, like streetlight poles and fixtures, signs, fencing, sandbags, which we just went through, tools, supplies, much better inventory control. And really the bottom line is just better delivery of services to our community and to our residents. That's really the bottom line. We've had some discussion about should we purchase a property or should we lease a property, and we're recommending tonight that we move forward with a purchase. We think that this location will serve our needs for a minimum of 10 years, and I think longer. I think if Public Works were to outgrow it and move, I think that as a city, we will continue to have a need for secure space and offices and warehouse space, that kind of thing. I think that the city could sell it in the future if we were to do something different, and I think likely we could sell it at a profit. We would realize the benefits of any improvements and investment that we made into the facility. They would be ours, and we would own those improvements. We've done an analysis and shown that it is actually less expense over a 10-year horizon to purchase the facility, and that's with the assumption of escalation in the value of the property. And finally, just adds to our collection of city assets, and I think it's a quite valuable asset. 3303 Young Drive is about 1.11 acres. There's one building on it, which is 5950 square feet, about 2,000 square feet of office, and just shy of 4,000 square feet of warehouse. There are 5 offices in the office space, and there's plenty of room for 4 additional workstations. There are 3 bathrooms in the facility. Very nice fenced yard with lighting and security cameras, and it comes with 2 things that we really need on a daily basis, which is an ice machine and a forklift. Those are benefits to us. One of the nice things about this location is it is shown right here, and if you look at that, it's actually very nicely situated in our city to service. It's just about in the centroid of the city, so the location is actually quite convenient for us. Just a few pictures of the building. This is standing on Lou Young, looking back at the building. The front part of the building with the stucco is offices, and the rear part is warehouse. This is standing inside of the fence, and so you can see we have a really nice sized yard. This is looking back at the building. This is just interior showing conference room, kitchen, the entryway, and one of the offices, but it's very nicely finished, very clean. This is the inside of the warehouse, and so you can see we've got room for lots of shelving to store our equipment and supplies. Financial summary, the asking price is $1,017,500. We did an appraisal. The appraisal came in at $985,000. We're anticipating additional expenses of about $230,000 for furniture, IT systems, shelving, those kinds of things. The funding would come from the Capital Facilities Fund, and there is sufficient balance in that fund to cover these expenses. And monthly operating expenses of about $4,000, and that's janitorial, IT, security, maintenance, those kinds of things. We are recommending to proceed again at the purchase price, and we think that there's many upgrades to this property that would provide an immediate value to the city. We did a very extensive search, and the sale and lease market in Rancho Cordova is very limited, which is also good news, actually. We think that it's a fair and reasonable price in comparison to similar facilities that we viewed during our search. And again, we think that the combination of amenities and location is really excellent for our maintenance services. The next steps would be that we would engage a firm to do a phase 1 environmental assessment. We would do a more in-depth review of the roof and HVAC inspections, and if those all were green lights, we would proceed with the execution of the purchase and sale agreement, which we're guessing is going to take somewhere in the neighborhood of about 30 days. So our recommendation tonight is to authorize the purchase of, approve the resolution authorizing the purchase of 3303 Leon Drive.
Questions for Steve?
Well, with the time we've been looking at this, and you've been looking at this, and what you've given us, and knowing where that location is right now, it's on the, I mean, I'm trying to see everything there on that side of Sunrise as something that's going to be benefited by the development of Rio del Oro. And it's there also. So I think in the future that property value is going to go up. And so I think it's a great investment right now.
I don't remember if we talked about whether or not it has an underground tank.
It does not, as far as we know. That will bear itself out in the phase 1. But we've asked the property owner. He says no. But we will find that out for sure.
Actually from the, one of the interesting perspective for looking at the yard, and the concrete looks incredibly clean. You would expect something industrial might have stains and whatnot on it, but it looks very clean.
Yeah, the current property owner actually poured concrete and put up security fencing and lighting and cameras. And so compared to other similar facilities we've looked at, it is actually very clean.
Yeah, okay. Any additional questions, comments? Are we ready for a motion? Anybody else want to speak to the item? Are we ready for a motion?
Yeah, I would say we would accept that resolution number 7-2017 and purchase this piece of property.
Second.
Thank you. Mindy, you want to call the roll?
Councilmember Sander? Aye. Councilmember McGarvey?
Aye.
Councilmember Skoklund?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Budge?
Yes.
And for the record, Mayor Terry's absent.
Super. Motion carries. Steve, thank you for your research, and thank you for waiting for us. Now, we are
The next time you talk to him, by the way, make sure it's on camera, right?
Now we are finished with our regular agenda, and we're moving to council requests for future agenda items. Are there any?
Not exactly a future agenda item, but a comment on the agenda. A few years ago, we had an initiative which was basically trying to get the agenda into as much real English and non-jargon as possible. And I noticed about 6 months ago, we've crept back into a little jargon. So you see some results of action that are exact titles, exact copies of the legal summary of what the item is, which sort of by definition would not be really explanatory at all as to what the effect of an item might have. So in the past, we have done this by having council members, including me, grade the items and make comments, usually revolving around questions like who, what, where, why, when an item has relevance. But, so Cyrus, I don't know how you would like to undertake that, if you want to give it a shot internally, or have us, or me comment on it again, that'd be fine. I just noticed particularly today that
Why don't you
there's improvement that could be made.
give Mindy some ideas of which ones you thought needed a little work?
So grade the agenda? All right.
Oh.
No.
Just as long as you don't use a red pen.
Thank you. Comment well taken. In fact, we would appreciate that feedback, so we'll do both. We have some internal discussions, but if you can also give us some specific feedback, that would be helpful too.
And the reminder is helpful. We'll just be sure we refocus on it in our weekly agenda review.
Okay, so we're going to adjourn to closed session Do you want to read the title of the closed session?
The title of the closed session is Conference with Legal Counseling Existing Litigation Pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D1. It's City of Rancho Cordova versus Cordova Recreation and Park District, Sacramento Superior Court Case Number 34-2016-80002474.
Super. Adam, do you expect a report out? Okay. So we're going to adjourn to the community boardroom, and city attorney will come back and report out for anybody who happens to be listening. And with that, the meeting is adjourned. Maybe I need to whack it louder.